Hey everyone, welcome back to Wheeling with Wally. Today I'm going to be installing this Cargo Dog rear seat delete in the back of my Gladiator. I'll get a couple things out of the way really quick. This thing is rather expensive. I opted for the Armorlite top instead of a carpet top, and that did add another $70 to it. But all in all, I think this cost me around 1,700 bucks. So it's pretty expensive. I do personally think it is a little overpriced for what you get. However, it did fit my needs perfectly. And I mean, quite frankly, if it fits the need and they can get me to buy it, maybe it's not overpriced, so here I am. And this is a rear seat delete, so this is not gonna be for everyone, but you do have the option if you want to do like a 60% seat delete, where you delete the passenger side and middle of the rear seat and keep the driver seat, so it'd be one single seat on the driver's side and the rear, which is a nice option. I went ahead and opted for the full rear seat delete. I don't have kids. I think I've had a rear passenger in this vehicle twice since I purchased it well over a year ago, and even then I didn't have to. So this really is what I was looking for, is a full rear seat delete. This is actually an incredibly easy install. I think it took me about an hour, and I was even filming this video, so it's not too hard at all. And Cargo Dog does actually have their own YouTube where they show the rear seat removal and the install process of this. So I've had this in my Jeep for about a month now, and I'll be honest with you, I absolutely love it. It kind of fits my needs perfectly. I use this as kind of a work vehicle. It is also my daily driver, but just having the flat surface back here is great for everything I need. And then it gives me extra storage for tools, and I have like a sampling kit and stuff on the other side for my job. So it really works out for me. And the main reason I was doing it is for off-roading or overlanding in the future, but I've also found it is very useful on a day-to-day basis. So I'm gonna grab you guys off the tripod real quick and bring you over here to give you just an overview of the whole thing, talk about a couple things I like about it, a couple things I don't love about it. So coming in here, obviously, like I said, one thing I love about it, flat surface. I went with that Armorlite top instead of a carpet because, you know, dogs, that's just another surface the dog hair would get stuck. So this will be easy to clean off. All three doors are lockable, love that. This is metal, which is a big reason I wanted it instead of a wood one, just for a little extra security. Obviously, you can break into this still pretty easy with a pry bar or something. However, this is better in my mind than plywood or, you know, any of those other like goose gear boxes. And it's actually a latching top instead of one of the ones that just sits in there. So if you're off-roading, flop on your side, go upside down, whatever's in here is gonna stay in here, and this is firmly mounted to the Jeep. Popping this open real quick, I don't have much in this side yet, just a tool bag, but if you can see, it is lit up, and that is one thing I don't really have a gripe about. Like, it's not bad, but again, for the price, if you come in here, you'll see this is just a cheap LED strip, one with the sticky backing, and you can kind of see right here, it's already coming off the back some, so I don't think long term this will stay stuck on there. And for $1,700, you know, you would like something a little more quality, but it does wrap around this side too, and just having the lighting in there is better than not having the lighting. The next thing I think I actually mentioned on the install portion of the video, but I'll say it here too, is I know why they did this and kept it a sharp corner, and that's to give you as much kind of surface area as possible. But if they had just kind of docked this corner some, you wouldn't be digging into the seat so much here. And this corner down here is kind of sharp. So if you let it up and your seat's back, it'll get in there. And when you're bringing it back down, it'll scratch and just tear this up over time. I have my seat scooted up so I can just open and close it. The doors are adjustable with the piston, so you can loosen this nut here and allow the door to open farther up or not open as far, however you want it. I don't think this really looks bad at all. You have it opened up to the back here where these extra little storage compartments that are behind your seat kind of look natural and flow well with this. I'm gonna try and show you this as best I can, but one of the bigger reasons I bought this is because I typically carry a firearm with me, and when I'm doing that, if I have windows down or I have to leave it in the vehicle for whatever reason, yes, I know that's the end of the world for some of you, but there are places that you go that you can't take a firearm and you have to secure them in the vehicle or leave them in the vehicle. And for me, that's why I wanted the metal box that's lockable, little extra security. And this is kind of a nice little feature. This middle section here is where you can reach from the front. Back here, open this, and then it opens just like that, so you can reach in and out of here to store things. So this is a good place that I've found to lock my firearm when I have to go in somewhere or leave it in the vehicle. So this middle section is also good because you have some extra ports in here. You have a cigarette lighter on the left, then 2 more USB chargers in the middle, and then on the right side you actually have a digital battery voltage readout, and then on the far left you have a switch that can turn the lights on and off and all of the extra charging in there. So if you just want to kill that for whatever reason, you have a switch, and then you just have extra storage. And like I said, all of this is easily reachable from the driver or passenger seat, which is a huge plus. And then you can just close, lock it up. And then, like I said, this is actually lockable as well. And then you have the gas strut in here where you can make this open more or less depending on your needs. Like I mentioned earlier, I have a couple dogs. This thing is called a cargo dog, so I think it was kind of initially invented for people who want a nice, flat, solid surface for their dogs to get in the back of the Jeep, and I love that feature too. At some point, I'd like to be able to take 1 or 2 of my dogs with me on some overlanding camping trips, but my dogs are getting a little older. They're kind of fat, happy, air-conditioned dogs. They've never really done that, so I'm a little hesitant to drag them all the way out to Utah. But this does make it easier because there's not a back seat in here where they'd be uncomfortable, and then I don't have to worry about anyone tearing up a back seat. It's just this metal and Armalite surface for them to stand on. You can put a bed down. That is kind of a neat feature. Right before we dive into the actual install, which you can skip ahead to if you want, just a quick overview of my Gladiator. I bought this stock about 1 year and 4 months ago, or 5 months ago now, and I am building it up slowly to make it into an overlanding vehicle for trips on the channel. I've so far done the winch and bumper, full skid plate system underneath. Let's walk around inside here. I added these JCR molly panels. I actually just added the one on the driver's door just for my gear. I left the netting on that side because my fiance didn't want it. I added these on each side of the console just for mounting flashlights and things like that. I have the bullet point Ruby grid system. That thing's amazing. Definitely recommend it. I have bullet points little grab bar mount there for my radio. I am getting a full GMRS radio to mount up here on this molly panel soon, and then I have that molly panel up top there. In the back now, I have the cargo dog, which this is going to be awesome for trips. And then in the very back in the bed, I added the decked toolbox, and this thing is pretty sweet itself. I also have the skid plate down here for my trailer hitch. I have some of my tools in the TJ because it was the last thing I was off-roading, but tons more storage here. You got a good platform up top. The only things I kind of have left to get are a bed rack so I can mount my tent, and that's kind of important for the camping side of this. And then I need a slight lift and some bigger tires to do any medium trails easily. And I do have the lift. I'm just going with a kind of a cheap lift here in the beginning, a 2-inch spacer lift, and that is an AEV lift. I've heard great things about it. I'm gonna try that out, and then I'm gonna throw 37-inch tires on this soon. I'll do an install video on that as well, and I have install videos on all of this. Just haven't edited it yet, but maybe by the time you're seeing this, it'll be on the channel. I'm making a whole build series on this, so if you are interested in that, or interested in TJ content or off-roading, please subscribe, follow along to the channel, watch all the videos. I'm really trying to grow the channel, and I'm trying to make good quality content for you guys. So a little shameless plug there. Let's get on to the install. For the first thing I'm gonna do for the install is get this door detached so I can open it farther, because we will be removing the seats. So I need as much room as possible. To do that, I'll have to remove this T40 bolt here, and then you have this plastic, you can pop it out of the way and lift this strap up and off. Now, I'm not disconnecting the wires because I'm not taking the door off, but you'll want to be careful that way it doesn't pull those out or let the door wrap around on a windy day and smack your other door. Now the door should be able to open up nice and far. There we are. And again, this can just now wrap around and hit your other door, so be careful on a windy day. I'm gonna go ahead and do the same thing to the other door. I'll probably leave that door closed for now just because I'm working on this side. And again, wind, just being careful. Now I'm gonna move on to removing this tray. There are 4 10mm bolts that hold this in, so I'm gonna pull these out real quick. If you guys weren't aware, you do have this handy dandy little thing Jeep includes that actually stores all your bolts. On the top, it shows you what it stores them for, and it actually takes these 4 that I just took out for this kind of little, I don't know, toolbox retention thing, and they just go in here. So that's pretty nice. Pull this bad boy up and out of the way. Next thing I'm gonna do is get this plastic cover out of the way. This is a T20, and there's 1 screw on each side holding it down. I'm just gonna pull those out real quick. Once you have those 2 screws out, this will just lift up and out of the way. So we also have to get this out of the way, and if you lift this up, you can get to the 2 screws that hold it in place. I'm also gonna put the 2 screws I just removed from over here into the bottom of this, so it will keep all of my factory stock screws in here. To remove this, it's a 10mm as well. I'm using a deep well here because it just fits better. So once you have the bolts off, if you guys look in here, there's also a little white clip that holds it in place. So I'm just gonna kind of pinch that and pop this tray out. I lied, I'm just gonna pull. One other thing I forgot to mention a minute ago, the 4 bolts that we put in here from the tray that we removed, we are gonna use those again. Those actually are what hold the cargo dog system down to the truck. Now I'm gonna move on to removing the smaller seat first. One cool thing about the cargo dog system is you can actually remove the bigger sides of the seats and leave the smaller seat in here as kind of a little jump seat and just put in the bigger section of the cargo dog, or you can remove both seats and have the full cargo dog in here. So it kind of gives you some options if you still need like a seat in the back. So to remove this seat, there are 4 bolts. I believe the socket you need is called an E14. It's kind of a reverse Torx bit. I don't have that. What I do have is an 11mm 12 point, which also works. It's not technically correct, but it will work. These bolts are here. Back up in here, that's kind of hard for you to see, camera adjust, and then 2 over here as well. It's not going to be too awful hateful. I mean, they're a little snug because they're seat bolts, but I'm just starting with a breaker bar just to loosen them up, and then I'm going to switch to a normal size ratchet and pop these bad boys out. So now that they're broken loose, I'm going to switch over to the ratchet so I can go a little bit quicker. Once you have all 4 of those bolts out, if you come in here, you'll see there are 2 10mm bolts that bolt the smaller seat into the bracket of the bigger seat. So you'll need to remove both of these as well. So that's all the bolts removed. The only other thing you'll need to remember when lifting this out is it is hooked in the back for the fold down seat. So you'll have to pull this strap to totally release it. So I'm gonna go ahead and lift this thing out. I'm gonna tug that strap and nurse my broken finger as I lift this thing out. Oh, that's a good place to hold it. Ooh. This thing is super light. Now I'm gonna remove the bigger section of the rear seat. It's basically identical, 4 more bolts, same size and everything, pretty much same locations. So I'm gonna get in here and get those out. Now that all 4 of the bolts are out on this side as well, just got to remember, same thing, pull the strap up here to totally release it and lift it out. Pivot, pivot. So now that we got the seats out, the next step is going to be putting all 8 of those bolts that held the seats in back into the holes. Now those will kind of create the weather-tight seal that keeps any water or debris out, and it'll also let you keep track of your bolts, and they'll always be right where you left them. I'm gonna run these all back in with my impact. One thing to always remember if you're gonna do that is to start your bolts by hand first, so you make sure you're not gonna cross thread them. And then these 2 little bolts from earlier that held the 2 seat brackets together, I'm just gonna toss them inside of this little storage box that we already had. This next step is a pretty simple one, but we no longer need these rear floor mats, so I'm just gonna pull these out. And then the very last thing we have to do before we actually move on to the install is remove the stock jack. There's just a little plastic nut over here you undo with your hand, and I'm gonna pull this out of the way. My Jeep is still stock ride height, so this jack is still useful, so I may either store it inside the cargo dog, or it might even fit up here in this plastic bin. We'll still have access to all of this kind of built-in storage on the Jeep once the cargo dog's installed. All right, there we go. And then just lift this guy up and off. You kind of lift up and slide towards you, and then it unhooks. And that's it with the seat removal. The jack does kind of fit here, but honestly, I hate having large, heavy chunks of metal like this not secured. So it'll probably go inside the cargo dog. Okay guys, so now I'm ready to actually move the 60% side of the cargo dog into place. One thing to note is this is that stud that held the jack on. They do have a hole in the cargo dog system to line up and let this stud go through it. So as I'm bringing this in here, I'm gonna do my best to line that up and set it down. So I'm gonna go grab that and I'll be right back. All right, trying to set this in here without scratching my paint. That's pretty lined up. So there is a handle on the side over here. I'm gonna open that, and that'll allow you to see the mounting holes in the bottom. You have this tiny piece of carpet inside they included. I'm just gonna move that out of the way for now. And then also stuffed in the side is the cord that will allow you to power the outlets that are in the center. I'm just gonna toss that over there for now. So I'll come grab you guys and show you exactly what I'm doing. So like I mentioned earlier in the video, when we remove that tray there, the cargo dog is going to use the same bolt holes and bolts that we took out from that to mount the cargo dog into the Jeep. So if you look in here, you have these 2 holes here, and you can kind of see it's not a perfectly lined up bolt hole, but it's more than enough that we can get these started. And then right here is where that stud came through for the jack. So I'm gonna grab 2 of those bolts from earlier that I put in that little bolt storage box, and then I'm gonna start these by hand. So here's my storage box. Just grab one of these out. Go ahead and get that one started. Grab a second one out. See if I can get this one started. Oh, there we go. All right. I'm gonna leave these loose for now until we get the other side of the cargo dog in place. So if you come around to the driver's side, this is the time before you put in the other section of the cargo dog where you want to take your nice plug and run it down and under, kind of in this little channel down here, and keep it from getting pinched by the other side of the box. And then you can just kind of toss it up and out of the way for now. And then also, if you see this little cord here, this is for connecting the lights in this side to the lights on this side. So when we put in the other section of the box, we just have to feed this through a little hole, and then we'll plug it in. So one thing to note when you're bringing this one in are the pins that are right here. They go into slots on the other side, so you just gotta kind of line those up and insert them. And like I said, there's a little notch out for this cord on the other box, so you'll want to push that through. And then just slide everything together. That looks good. And you'll want your other 2 bolts from where you took that tray out. Pop the door open and get these started as well. Pull the carpet out of the way. Get those lined up and get the bolts started. All right, so if you guys come on down into here, you'll see where we stuck that wire through for the lights, and then it needs to connect to this section. You can kind of tell by the clips the correct orientation, and you just need to mate these 2 together. There we go. That wasn't too bad. And now we can go ahead and tighten down these 2. As you're doing this, you kind of want to make sure the gap between the 2 boxes isn't like huge. You want to keep it as tight as you can. This is that same 10 millimeter from earlier, and these do not need to be super tight, just, you know, good and snug. So now we'll just go around to the passenger side and tighten those 2 down as well. Same thing on this side. I'm going to go ahead and tighten these 2 bolts down. I'm going to push them together while I do it, just to hopefully get a nice, secure, and tight fit. So this is where the jack was mounted. That's that stud. You can either cut that off, or you can leave it if you think you'll ever go back to factory and you'll want that there. I'm going to put this little nut back onto the stud, so it's, you know, a little more dull, something less aggressive that it'll catch on. And in the future, I might cut this off just because this looks like a huge hassle of something that's going to catch any gear I put in here. But I'm going to go ahead and just tighten this down. And now I'm going to take my carpet and I'm going to stick that back in here as well. So if you open up the middle section here, this is where they included some extras. You do have 2 keys. You've got keys hanging from each door. I really hope the locks are all the same key, because that will be annoying if not, but we'll talk about that in a minute. In here, you have this adapter, so you'll need this for the cigarette lighter. I'm gonna go ahead and take this and plug it in. So you'll just wanna take this and plug it into the adapter, and then I'm gonna run this up here a little ways. And then if you open up the middle console here, there is a USB outlet and a little pass-through for a cord. So I'll route this a little better in a minute, but I'm gonna stick this down in here and plug in the USB. So then if you come back around the back here and into the center, we have a switch that's right here, and flipping this on should power on our lights. And there we are. You have a nice little LED strip in there, and you should have one in each side, which they all activate when you open them. They have little switches here that'll toggle them on and off. So that's a nice little feature. Just gives you lighting in here so you can see your gear. All right, so I'm running out of daylight. I want to go ahead and get the doors back together before I forget. So all you're gonna need now are those bolts we took out earlier, 1 for each door, and the T40 Torx. And then we're just going to stick this back in here and tighten it down. Again, start it by hand so you don't cross thread it. There we are, I've got that started, and now I'm just gonna run it down with my power tool because I'm lazy. That should be good. And then you just wanna take your little retention strap here and hook it back over that hook. And then you can clip all of this back in place. There we go. All right, so that door is back to normal. I'm gonna go ahead and do it for the other door off camera. So again, I'm losing daylight, but I wanna really quickly go over some features that I already kind of like and don't like. One of the things being these doors, and just, I know the point is to give you maximum storage and space back here, but I'm not tall. I'm 5'7" and a half, if you round. 5'8" if you're generous. So I don't sit back very far in the seat, and I usually sit a little more upright and lean back. But even so, opening that door, it catches aggressively on the seat. I was hoping it would be something I could kind of leave my seats as is and then open these, but I mean, this one's really far up right now because no one's in there. And if you open this, it still almost touches, and that's probably far too close for any regular sized person to sit in that seat. So let me walk you around to the driver's side. This seat is in my normal sitting position, so when I open this, this is where it hits. And it's just enough that it goes in here that when you bring it back down, it catches and pulls on the fabric, and obviously you don't want that long term or you might rip it. So that's something you have to be aware of. Basically, every time you're gonna wanna open this, you're gonna have to move your seat forward and then put it back. Not a big deal, just almost would have been nice if this ear was docked or something on the corner so you could just open it without it catching on the seat. The next thing that would have been nice if they could do, which maybe there's a reason they couldn't do it, but you get 3 sets of keys with this, 2 with this door, 2 with the other door, and then 2 with the middle. The 4 that go for the side doors match the locks, so that's nice. But then the center actually has its own set of keys that only fits the middle. So that's kind of annoying, so you have to keep 2 sets of keys. It'd be nice if they were all the same. Again, not a big deal, but that would have been nice. A couple of features I do like are the lights in here. I like that I have a nice platform and storage. And then if you open the doors up, this is adjustable. Let me bring you in here. Now this is true for all 3 doors, but this piston here has a nut so you can loosen or tighten this to adjust how far it'll let the door open, which is pretty nice. On these, not bad because they're already catching the seat, but on the middle, this one is adjusted pretty low. And now if you're reaching that from the front or something, that would be a pretty sharp angle to get your arm in there. So I will adjust this one so it opens a lot more. Then while we're in here, again, love the lights. You have extra charging in here. It tells you your battery voltage because you're plugged into the vehicle. You've got a little cigarette lighter and you've got 2 USBs. So this isn't made for anything big like battery banks or anything like that. It's made for small charging, like maybe some batteries and, you know, just smaller stuff. You don't want to overload this, and they actually say that in their instructions. Also included in here is this little guy, and you can scan this code and it'll take you straight to their videos on how to remove the seats and how to install it. You got a couple stickers, and then boom, a little thing about Cargo Dog and their history, which is kind of cool. And this is an American company, which is awesome. I love supporting American companies. I also love supporting local ones. They're from Michigan. Like I said, this shipped in Ohio like 20 minutes from my work, so I don't know if they're now in Ohio or they just manufacture here, but I do my best to find those American-made products, especially for my Jeeps, and this is just another one. I'm pretty happy with the overall build, look, and quality of it. So some other slight things I'm not in love with are kind of to do with the fit and finish. Just to my eye, this is annoying how that goes in. And then if you come in up here, you can see, hopefully if the camera adjusts to the darkness, this door sticks out much past the other door and a little higher. But then on this one, it's lined up a lot better. Again, none of that is a huge deal. Also, just being mounted with the 2 bolts on each side kind of gives it a little bit of wobble. I mean, that's not a good example because of this, but I can't really pull with this hand because my finger's broken. This side is a lot firmer than the other side. Let me hop over there and show you. So with this one being open, you can see it has a lot more wiggle to it. Well, I hope you can see. It's really hard to see if the camera's picking that up, but it just has those 2 bolts down there to hold it. It would have been nice if maybe some other mounting or maybe the pins that go through there could have been actually threaded so you could put nuts on it to lock it into the other side of the cargo dog a little better. Not a huge deal, but just these are small things I'm noticing, and maybe the company will take them and use the feedback to make the product even better. And so it is absolutely about to pour down rain, and I gotta get the stuff back in here, get the other Jeep back in the garage, move the seats over. So I am going to rush and get that done. I appreciate you guys watching. I really hope you enjoyed the quick install video. I'll probably do a better review on it later after I've had some time with it. But all in all, I'm very excited to have this rear seat delete in there. I don't have kids. I never have a backseat passenger. So the extra storage will be awesome for me for my trips and overlanding. And then also I can just hop my dogs in the back now, not have to worry about the seats being weird or hard for them to stand on, or just getting dirty. So all of that is awesome. Again, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, drop me a comment down below, like the video, and subscribe if you're not subscribed. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys on the next one.